All right, everybody, welcome to our second live virtual cooking class with Jeni Wheeler and Jim of the Family Table Collaborative. Jeni is going to be making coconut Dijon mustard chicken thighs or portobello mushrooms for you today. And we are also going to be asking you for your suggestions at the end of this presentation for recipes that she can cook for us, things that you might be interested in. I believe that Jim will be monitoring the chat. So if you have questions while this is going on, please put them in the chat and we will answer them toward the end so that Jeni can just keep going with her presentation. And I'm so pleased that you're all here, and I hope that you salivate a lot while she's cooking and are inspired to try it yourselves. All right, so Jeni, whenever you're ready, go for it.
Hi guys, I apologize. I feel a little bit left out. I don't know if this looks awkward, but we are having a little bit of technical difficulties. So I actually couldn't hear anything that was just said, which is why I'm like, hi. But hello, I'm super excited that you're with us today for live cooking with me, Jeni Wheeler. I am so excited you're all here. And I have no idea, like I said, what was said. So if I repeat something, I apologize, but I just want to make sure I set all the ground rules so you guys get to have fun. We all get to have fun together, and then we get to eat a delicious meal at the end of this. So what can be better than that? One, happy Tuesday. We apologize for the delay from last week. Obviously, we're still working out some of the kinks, but we're super excited that our plan is to do this once a month with the Hyannis Library. And it normally will be the fourth Tuesday of every month. And the reason I'm saying this at the beginning is because we're kind of wanting to ask you to help us out. For me, it's super important that we're doing things that you're excited about, that we're cooking things that you want to eat, that we're learning things that you want to learn. So I want your brains to kind of be thinking, I know it's weird. I'm giving you homework at the beginning of a class on a Tuesday night. I'm also going to tell you, if you want to go get a glass of wine or a cocktail or a coffee or a water or whatever you want, just to relax and get in the mood to have some fun tonight, go ahead and do that. But I'm asking you for more of a favor than homework. Because we're going to do this once a month, we really want to hear from you. So we'd love to promote it earlier and really get people excited. So if there are things you want us to tackle, if there are things that you want to learn, if there are dishes you want to do that you want to cook together, keep in mind that the cook time of whatever it is you're giving me needs to be about 45 minutes or less. Because we want to make sure we get to have a little bit of fun along the way and talk and chat and learn some stuff. So we don't want to be pressed for time. So if there's something you want or that you kind of think about, feel free to type it in the chat today, because we really want to make sure we're doing the things that you guys want to do. This is all about community. This is all about making sure that cooking is not scary. It's fun. You can make nutritious, delicious, amazing meals. And it doesn't have to take you forever, and it doesn't have to cost a ton, and all the things. So with that being said, again, if something enters your brain, throw it in the chat. I have my trusty producer, Jim, behind the camera today. So if you type a question into the chat, he's going to let me know and tell me. If you don't want him to use your first name, he will only use your first name when he tells me. But if you don't want him to use your first name, just say anonymous or ANON and your question, and he will not say your name. That's one of those weird things for me. Like it's like I'm a hugger, so I like to hug people. And then COVID hit, and I'm not really supposed to hug people, and it's really difficult for me. So for this, it's like I want to talk to you directly. I want to use your name. But if you're not comfortable with that, I totally understand. So anything goes here. We're all in this together. This is supposed to be super fun, educational, and a little bit of a party. So take a couple seconds, get yourself set. I have in front of me what I hope is all of the ingredients, but you know, today's been a long day for me too. So I'm hoping I'm not missing anything. I think I have everything. And you know, I am one of those people that I always throw in a couple of surprises. I did list that just in case you wanted to use your rice as a dessert too, that you could use something like mangoes. So in fact, I do have mangoes here as well. And a little bit of funny about this, anybody make banana bread? Well, if you make banana bread, you know, you're not using super fresh bananas. You actually want to use the bananas that most people would say are spoiled, are bruised, they're a little bit bad, they're browner. When you peel them, they're slimy and gross. That makes the best banana bread. Well, what I'm doing with mangoes isn't quite the same, but it's almost. The best mangoes for what I am going to show you guys how to do to make kind of like a nice little nifty dessert are ones that are almost a little bit overripe. They're a little softer, they're a little squishier. So I just want to give you a heads up that, you know, if you're eating like a harder mango, that's fine. But for the dish tonight, you're actually a little bit better. If you like mango, or if you haven't tried a mango, you should definitely try one, because part of what we're talking about is trying new things and expanding our palate. All right, so now that I have given you that soliloquy at the beginning of class, let's jump in and get started. Again, welcome. We want to thank the Hyannis Library for supporting programs like this, and for joining me and joining us. Obviously, you can tell I am not at Riverway right now. It's kind of weird and hard to teach in a commercial kitchen, so we're at my house. Here we are. And the shade is down because it makes weird light for Jim. So instead, I'm standing in front of a purple curtain. So anyway, we're going to get started tonight. I hope you guys are all ready. I'm super excited. I got to tell you, this is one of my kind of go-to favorites if I'm having people over, because it kind of suits everybody. It's one of those things that has a little bit of savory, a little bit of sweet, and it just kind of hits all the right spots for a lot of people. So I hope you enjoy it. We're using some ingredients that not everyone uses every day, which is kind of fun. And again, part of what I like to talk about is nutritious, delicious meals don't have to be super complicated. They don't have to take forever. And they also can use certain ingredients that where everything isn't absolutely fresh. I am all about, if you know me, you know that I am the queen of produce. I am fresh produce, fresh produce, fresh produce. I have faster. So this is where we're at. We are cooking either coconut chicken thighs in coconut oil with a Dijon mustard glaze, or if you're vegetarian, or even if you're not and you just really like portobello mushrooms, portobello mushrooms done the same way is super fun, really tasty. I love mushrooms. I'm going to cook both. And not surprising, I'm actually going to eat them together so that I get the benefit of both. But you basically can do either. I like to make sure I'm giving a vegetarian option at every point in things I do, because, you know, there's an awful lot of vegetarians and it's a really healthy lifestyle. And so if that's your thing, I am all about it with you. I eat vegetarian probably about 60% of the time. So I always like to make sure that I give that as an option. My brand also is built off of allergens and making sure people are like food sensitivities and all of that stuff. So what you're going to see with me is you're going to get a lot of gluten-free just by nature. People think of gluten-free and they automatically think of gluten-free pasta or gluten-free. No, there's just a lot of things that don't have gluten. So I'm here to tell you, my dad and my sister have to be gluten-free. So it's why I pay attention to it, but it's how I built my brand, really paying attention to people's food sensitivities. So tonight's meal is totally gluten-free because rice is gluten-free. It just is. So it's nothing different. You just don't have to worry about it because we're not dealing with anything with wheat. So we've got the portobello mushrooms right here. We have the chicken thighs. The first thing we're going to do, just because it's going to take the longest, and this is a pretty quick meal, so it's not going to take us too long, is we're going to get the rice started, okay? So the rice is going to take us, give or take, 20 minutes to cook. So we're going to get that on, so that's going, so then we can move into our chicken. All right, everyone ready? Ready, ready, ready? Yes. Okay, so here's the deal. Rice, I went with a jasmine rice. Really, any rice is fine. You can do whatever you want. Basmati, jasmine, fairly similar. Risotto is a different type of rice. It's thicker, it's a little bit creamier. I love risotto. I decided not to do it with this dish, but this is what we're gonna do. I have kind of a small to medium saucepan right here. Rule of thumb with rice, you can always look it up, read the directions, and make sure you know different rice can be a little bit different, but most rices are just about a 2-to-1 ratio. So whatever you use for rice, you're going to use twice as much or just shy as twice as much water. So with jasmine, that is the ratio. So what we're going to do is I like to saute my rice in a little bit of oil first. So we're going to put the pan on the stove. We're going to turn it on like a medium high. And then for this, I'm not using butter. Again, that keeps this dairy free. You can use butter if you want. Again, I'm just going to mention if it's an allergen thing or a sensitivity, ways that you can counteract that. So I usually use Gustari oil. They're very, very good to me. They donate $10,000 of olive oil to the Family Table Collaborative every year. But because I have an event, I took all of my personal olive oils to the kitchen because we had a huge event at Riverway last night. So all I'm doing is I'm adding probably about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half is probably what I just added to the bottom of the pan. I'm letting it get a little bit warm. I want to make sure, and you can tell when olive oil starts to move around your pan quickly, you can tell that the pan is hot. So I'm just letting it heat up a little bit. And while that's heating up, I'm going to measure out. So depending on how many people you're cooking for, I'm going to go with 4. This meal is kind of designed around cooking for 4. You can cook for 2 as well. I might have actually said 2 in the recipe. However, I'm going to go ahead and do it as if it's for 4 because I want a little rice left over because I want to show you the dessert. So I'm going to go ahead and use a cup of rice. For a meal for 2 people, a half a cup of rice is plenty. But like I said, I want a little bit extra because I want to show you the dessert portion as well. So you can see my oil is now moving really fast around my pan. So I know my pan is hot. So I'm going to go ahead and pour in the jasmine rice. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to just swirl it around, make sure it kind of gets coated in a little bit of oil. This is going to toast the rice just a hair. I like the flavor that adds. I also like what it does when the rice is cooking. So now we're going to let that sit for a minute, just so, like I said, we can do a little bit of that toasting of the rice. It's just going to make it a little bit, it has a slightly different flavor if it gets a little bit, just not even brown, but just that little bit of heat on it before. All right, I'm going to put my rice away. Or just get it out of my way, really. Not really away. Okay, then I'm going to take a little bit of adobo. I would say this is where, I'm not going to lie, it's hard for me to measure things because I never measure things, but I know it's really, really, really important for you guys to know what I'm doing. So I have these really beautiful measuring spoons that my sister got me last year, and they're all sorts of sea creatures because I was a swimmer and I'm a scuba diver. So she bought me these beautiful little measuring spoons with all these sea creatures. The turtle is my favorite. Somebody is calling me. I'm quietly just killing that. Okay, so what we're gonna use is the smallest one. And of course I can't read it because I don't have my glasses on. So this is 1/4 teaspoon. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use 1/4 teaspoon of adobo.
Can you show the adobo up close?
Yes, we can. So this is a very, Goya makes a super inexpensive adobo. Adobo is kind of in almost anything spice. It has a lot of different spices mixed into it to make it. Tons of different, you can get it by tons of different people. This size, now granted, I understand most people do not need this size, but with how much I cook, I do. But a regular size, maybe 1/4 or 1/3 of this at Stop and Shop is like $1.99 or $2.99. So it's not an expensive spice. I use it in a ton of things. In my commercial kitchen, people joke that it's my favorite spice and that it goes in everything. I can't say they're lying. It goes in almost everything. So adobo is, I'm a big fan. It adds a lot of flavor. So it is one of my go-to spices. So I just poured in 1/4 teaspoon. I'm gonna go back. I'm just mixing it around, getting it in there. The rice is toasting up a little bit. You can kind of start to smell if it is getting too hot. You don't want to burn it. It's okay if it gets a little bit brown, but you don't really want to blacken it. You don't want it to stick to the pan. You don't want to burn it. So we're doing that. We're letting it sit a quick minute. And then what we're going to do is whatever amount of rice you used, whether it's 1/2 cup or a cup like me, we're going to go ahead and do just shy of that, of double that in water. So if you used 1/2 cup of rice, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you to basically make a cup of water and then pour off a tiny bit, like just a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and use just shy of 2 cups of water, right around maybe 1 3/4. So go ahead and get your water. I can start to smell my rice. It smells nice, really nice. We're gonna go ahead and pour in. And actually, I take that back. Okay. See, I just stepped 1 step. So I poured in 1/2 of my water, and if you poured in all of it, it's fine. But we have this sweetened condensed coconut milk. This is gonna give your rice a little bit of a sweet flavor. I can show you mine. It doesn't matter what kind you use. But you're going to go ahead. If you used 1/2 cup, you're only gonna use half your can, okay? I used a whole cup, so I'm gonna use all of my can. Like I said, this is gonna add a little bit of sweet. Now I can tell you, I am not a sweet person, but everyone that I know that tries this is like, it's fascinating because it's that combination of sweet and savory that's kind of tasty because you have the rice and then you have the sweetened coconut milk. So we're gonna go ahead and leave that alone. I'm gonna cover it. We're gonna let it cook. We'll come back and check on it in a little bit. So next up, we want to get our chicken cooking. So what I should have started with, and I didn't, I usually do, before you cook anytime, when you see me cooking at the kitchen, if I'm working with anything that's going to be served raw, so if I'm making salads, if I'm making anything that I'm touching that we're going to serve without being cooked, you'll always see me gloved. My volunteers gloved, everybody's gloved. If you're working with anything that's going to be served directly to the public. If you're not, you don't have to glove. The rule of thumb is you don't have to glove because you're going to cook it off. But as a rule of thumb, you should wash your hands thoroughly before you start cooking, and any time after you you use something or touch something that could contaminate something else. So I washed my hands right before I came on. If you haven't, I would suggest doing that. But specifically with chicken innately carries bacteria. You want to be exceptionally careful. So after you use chicken, you want to make sure if chicken juice gets on anything, you either use a little bit of bleach water, some Clorox wipes, whatever it is you have around. You want to thoroughly wipe everything down just to make sure nothing can be contaminated. Okay, so we're going to open the chicken. I'm going to grab a knife. Actually, no, we're not going to open it yet. We can open it, but I'm going to grab my pan. So I'm using a fry pan, has a non-stick glaze. My favorite types of pans are actually cast iron usually. However, this just is a nice fit for this dish. So we're going to get this on the stove top and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to turn it on. I'm going to turn it on medium high. I want to get the pan hot. What we're going to put in the pan is coconut oil. I mentioned virgin coconut oil. You might ask, what's the difference? The difference is with virgin coconut oil, you're going to be able to smell it. It's going to smell like coconut. I personally love the smell of coconut. So, oh, so good. And the cool thing about coconut oil is it's actually naturally antibacterial. I'm not sure if you guys knew that or not, but if you have a burn, a lot of times it helps. If you have like some sort of skin sensitivity, a lot of times it helps. Obviously, if you have a nut allergy, not necessarily. Coconut is something that some people are allergic to, so obviously you want to know that. I'm guessing you're not allergic to coconut oil if you're doing this recipe with me tonight though. So if you're not allergic to coconut oil, I use this on my face when my face is dry. It's just a really, really great catch. You can cook with it. You can use it on your skin. It's amazing. It's an amazing product. So tonight, sometimes cooking with coconut oil, the other thing that's awesome about coconut oil is it's a high heat oil. It can take heat that's higher without burning the oil. And you can tell if you burn oil because it changes the flavor. So what we're doing is we're going to take coconut oil. I'm going to suggest you take about a tablespoon. And coconut oil is one of these oils that it solidifies if it isn't over about 72 degrees. So if you, during the summer, you might notice that it liquefies, and during the winter, you might notice it does this. It's actually completely white. So it hardens because it's not warm enough in my house to keep it liquefied. So, but you'll see that basically, as soon as it touches something hot, it melts. So what we're doing is we're getting the pan hot, and then we're getting the coconut oil nice and hot. I'm just keeping my spoon down for a second so that I don't have to touch the coconut oil. By heating the spoon, the coconut oil will come off of it without me having to slide my finger across it. Again, I'm very conscious about what am I touching, and then what else am I touching? Because it's what we call cross-contamination. So we want to make sure we never get contaminants from one thing to another. That's really critical in a commercial kitchen, but not for nothing. It's pretty critical at your house too, because you don't want anybody at your house to get sick either. And you don't want to get sick either. So we got the coconut oil in the pan. And now you're either, I'm going to do both. One of the reasons I'm using the slightly bigger pan, you're either going to have your portobello mushrooms, or you're going to have your chicken. Now, I said chicken thighs. Chicken thighs have a ton more flavor to me than chicken breast. A lot of people only like white meat. I understand that too. That's the cool thing about cooking, guys, and the cool thing about eating. We all have different palates. There isn't necessarily a right or a wrong. We all like different things, and that's okay. You get to choose. So I kind of hope that if you didn't like chicken thighs, you went with chicken breast, totally fine. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a fork again, so I don't have to touch the chicken directly. I'm going to go ahead. You hear that sizzle? It means my pan is nice and hot. I'm going to go ahead and put the chicken thighs in the pan. It means the pan's nice and hot. And then I'm gonna throw that out, and then I am going to not use the same fork, though I could because it's cooking in the same pan. And I'm going to put in the portobellos right next to the chicken thighs. All right, so we're gonna take that adobo again, and you're gonna go right over the top. A little bit of a shake right over the whole pan. Now, I didn't add garlic to the recipe, but I really like garlic, so I'm going to add a little bit of garlic to the pan. If you have it and you like it, you feel free to add it. It is not necessary for the recipe. Something else sometimes people add is I'm adding black garlic, which is interesting. Not everyone. This is actually from Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's has a lot of cool spices. I got a lot of my stuff today at Whole Foods because they have an amazing amount of organic products. They also have fantastic sales, and they're one of my community partners. They are with the Family Table Collaborative. They're shape-shifting what I can do. So I pretty much shop between those two stores for almost everything I get. So I am going to grab a cover. I'm going to cover this. It doesn't have to be super tight. I'm going to cover this, and I'm going to set a timer for 4 minutes. I'm using my phone because that's the easiest way for me to do it. We're going to go with 4 minutes. Start. I'll leave this right here so you can see it counting down. Okay, so I'm just gonna, before we go to, actually I'm gonna wash my hands, even though I didn't touch any chicken, just to make sure I didn't get any type of contamination on my hands. I'm gonna make sure I wash them nice and thoroughly. You'll see most people that work with their hands, they don't tend to touch faucets. They'll wash their hands and then they'll use the back of their hand or their wrist or something. And it's to ensure that no contaminants can get on your hands before you do your next task. Okay, I'm going to pick up my spatula. I'm just going to give my coconut rice a little bit of a stir. Make sure everyone can see. Just stirring it up. Let that stay there for a minute. All right. So what we're going to do is, while our 4 minutes is ticking away, we're going to actually get ready to do our spinach and chickpeas. So it's coming out. Chickpeas. So we're going to open up our can of chickpeas. I have a nerve injury in my right elbow. It makes it hard to use can openers, which is why I'm using my left hand to turn it in case this looks odd to you. But you know, we all find workarounds. So you can use the liquid that chickpeas are canned in for a lot of different things, particularly if you're a baker. I am not a baker. I usually save it for my baker, Kelly. I'm not going to do that tonight, but we're going to dump this out. When I'm opening my cans, I always leave the tiniest bit attached because it acts as a natural strainer. But then you also have to make sure you're super careful when you open it. I'm going to do a little rinse of the chickpeas. They're not quite like other beans. A lot of beans have a lot of thick liquid in them. Chickpeas do not have that. So I'm going to get a little bowl. Now, chickpeas might be a little bit different for you guys. You might not be used to working with them, but beans and rice make a complete protein. In most of the world, it's part of your diet. So it almost doesn't matter. You'll see. It almost doesn't matter what beans and rice together make a complete protein. I will tell you, I eat chickpeas like they're candy. I eat them out of the can. I eat them plain. I put them on salads. I put them in my breakfast this morning. I throw some spice on them sometimes. I can fry them, pan-sear, whatever. I eat them constantly. I love them. Not everyone feels the same way. Me, love them. Okay, Next up, spinach. The spinach I bought is triple wash, so I do not have to wash it. However, if it is not, you do want to rinse it. I like to get baby spinach. It's a little bit finer. It doesn't tend to have the thicker stems that the bigger spinach leaves have, which means that I don't have to pull off the leaves. Because sometimes the stems are a little bit tougher. So I'm grabbing a knife. I'm grabbing a bigger knife for the, I'm grabbing a bigger knife because I want to do what I call a cross chop. What is a cross chop, Jenny, you might ask? What it is you're going, oh, there's our timer. Time goes so fast. Okay, so what we're going to do before we get to our cross chop is we're going to take some of our mustard, and I'm going to tell you to put it in a dish. And the only reason I'm going to do that is because we're about to coat the chicken. So I'm going to take about, it depends how much you want, depends how many chicken thighs you put in. I went with like a solid tablespoon. If you're somebody who likes something really sweet, you can add a little bit of honey to this. If you're somebody who likes it a little bit tart, you could add a little bit of vinegar. I'm actually going to just leave it alone and just use the Dijon mustard, but I want to make sure that you know there's all sorts of options. So what I'm going to do, this is the reason I took it out of the jar, is because as soon as this spoon touches the chicken, anything else it touches, I cannot put it back in the jar. I can't use it later. It's that whole contamination thing we talked about. So I'm literally going to paint the chicken thighs with Dijon mustard. And like I said, if you like something a little sweeter, you can add a little bit of honey and mix it in with it. If you like a little savory, I'm also putting it on my portobello mushrooms, making sure I don't like to waste anything, so I'm kind of scraping my dish a little bit, getting it all out. Because again, anything I don't use, I can't use on something else because it's touched chicken. Put that dish away. I'm going to take a little spoon or a tablespoon. I'm going to tip my pan. I'm going to get a little bit of that coconut oil. I'm going to spoon it right over the top. There you go. Just tipping that pan, getting a little bit of the coconut oil, spooning it right over. It's kind of like basting a turkey at Thanksgiving. You want to make sure you get everything nice and coated in that beautiful, tasty fat. Coconut oil is a really good fat, but it's still fat. So we want to make sure we get that flavor into every morsel. So once I get it covered completely, put that spoon down. I'm going to cover this pan again. And now I'm going to set the timer for 8 minutes. Setting the timer for 8 minutes. There we go. All right. You want to make sure everybody's good and that you're all set. Feel free to take a sip of your drink, chill out, enjoy that we all get to do this together. It's way more fun. I tell people this all the time when I'm in my kitchen. It's so much more fun to cook with people. See? Cheers, Jim. It's Tuesday, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock somewhere. So it's so much more fun to do with other people. I get that. That's part of the reason we did this program. I tell my volunteers that all the time.
It's a good substitute for black garlic.
A great substitute. Great question. A substitute for black garlic can be regular garlic. Funny enough, again, who doesn't have garlic in their house? I took a lot of my spices to my kitchen the other day, but I just happen to have black garlic. Plain garlic is a perfect substitute. If you have onion powder, that can be, you know, it's not quite a substitute, but it's also a really, really nice thing to add. So as you can see, I took out some onion. I had thought about using that. I didn't. So plain garlic powder, or you can use the pre-crushed garlic, or if you have some garlic cloves, you can even chop up 1 or 2 fresh cloves and throw it in right in the oil. Fresh garlic cloves roasted in oil is divine, divine. All right, so let's get back to our spinach. So you can see I have a handful of spinach out, kind of a solid amount. I'm going to squish it up into kind of as much of a ball as I can. I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to just start chopping kind of fine. All we're trying to do, and then we're going to never put the blade towards you. We're going to squish it all up again. And we're going to keep doing this until basically all of the spinach is cut. You never want to put your fingers near the blade. And what happens is once it all gets chopped up a little bit, it doesn't move around quite as much. So you can put it together and cross chop is you're going to cut it one way, push it all together, and then you're going to cut it the opposite direction. So you're going to go kind of perpendicular, right to left, top to bottom. And again, each time you can kind of push it together so you're making sure you're not missing any pieces. And the reason for this, by the way, is you just don't want it to be stringy. I mean, it's fine to not cut it, but I find that a lot of people, it kind of offends their senses more when it's stringy. So again, I go back to, I love fresh vegetables. So I am a fresh veggies in everything. I also like to say you should eat the rainbow. Different foods of different colors give you different nutrients, different vitamins. And in order to make sure you're getting everything you need, you should eat all sorts of different colors. And you should have vegetables at every meal. Yes, I said every meal. So here we go. All right, our spinach is chopped. Our chickpeas are out. Our chicken is cooking. We've got 8 minutes, but I'm going to come back and I'm just going to do a quick turn. I'm going to turn the chicken thighs over. So if you can see, it has a nice little glaze on the bottom. The mushroom, that's not burned chicken. That's one of our portobellos. And turn that over. And then we're going to do that same thing that I did a minute ago. We're going to take it. We're going to tip the pan. And we're going to pull some of that beautiful coconut oil. And we're going to pour it right over. Now you're also going to have some of the mustard in with this as well, because we've now coated it in mustard. So that's what you're seeing. You want to get all of that coated, get all of that beautiful flavor on every piece. Don't want to miss any. It's like people at Thanksgiving fighting over like crispy skin or the pieces that got nice and crispy. I don't know if your family does that, but mine does. All right, we've got everything nicely coated. We're going to cover that back up. Perfect. Now I'm going to go back to my rice, give a little check. All right, it's crisping up. Oh, it's starting, my rice is starting to burn a little bit. So I'm going to make sure it's turned down. Now, these pieces are actually going to taste pretty good, but you don't really want it to burn on the bottom. So that light brown that you're seeing right there, totally tasty. You just don't want it to turn black. So I'm mixing it up. I've turned my burner down. And since it's absorbed most of the liquid, I'm going to give it a taste test. So what are we tasting for? We're tasting for how firm the rice is. You want your rice? Different people like rice different ways. I've had a lot of people say, no, I like it mushier. Oh, I like it more al dente, which means a little bit firmer. Again, there's not a right or a wrong. It's just what appeals to you. Smells so good. Oh, this is when like, I want to create smell-o-vision. So good. Okay, I think mine needs a little bit more liquid. That's why I always tell you to go a little less, because you can always add more. You can't take it away. So I'm just going to go with 1/4 cup because it's really tasty, but I think it needs just a hint more liquid. We give this a stir, and we're going to go ahead. I'm going to turn down my chicken a little bit. It's kind of between medium high and medium. I'm going to add my spinach. To me, the more the better. If it scares you a little bit, add a little less. And I'm going to add my chickpeas. And we're going to give it a stir. Just going to turn it over. We're going to let this cook in a little bit more. You're going to be amazed at the difference of what that condensed sweetened coconut milk does to your rice. All right, so now the chicken's cooking. So our timer is about to go off. We have 15 more seconds. We've gone ahead and turned it over. I've turned my chicken down. When the buzzer goes off, I'm about to tell you to turn it to medium. Right there. I love it when a plan comes together. So we've turned it over. We've coated it already. It's on medium. We're going to set it for 4 more minutes, and then dinner's served. So we're going to go ahead, set it for 4 minutes. Start. Okay, so here's the last thing I'm going to show you. And again, not required. You didn't have to do this, but I thought it was kind of a fun extra thing. On the plate so I can show you. This is a mango. This is an atufo mango. It's my favorite type of mango. I say things weird like that a lot. Like, I have a favorite type of mango. I have a favorite type of kale. It's called lacinato kale or elephant ear kale. I have favorites of my fruits and vegetables. It's just one of those things when you work with all of them. And one of my favorite things when I get like distributions in from Whole Foods is I'm like, name that fruit and vegetable. We regularly get things that I've never seen. And if I've never seen it, most people haven't seen it. It's kind of weird. So it's always my favorite thing is like, oh my goodness, I want to try that. I want to try that. So you can use a peeler. These are, I'm going to tell you, when you peel them, they're kind of slimy. I'm going to use, I think I'm going to try and use a knife. I have limited dexterity in this hand, so it might not be pretty. But I'm going to go ahead and try and peel it. And again, a reason for smell-o-vision. This smells so good. Like I said. Now, the funny thing about these mangoes is that the seed is flat and long. They're really, really funny looking. So you're going to be like, that doesn't look right. So anyway, I'm going to dump this in my sink for a quick minute so I can peel a couple, get a little bite off for you. So, because I'm just going to show you what this can do for dessert. Because when you take this coconut rice, so this one has a couple bruises in it. If it looks like this, it has some bruises. I'm not going to use the fully bruised sections, but the extra ripe is actually kind of the best part. It makes it super soft. It adds a lot of flavor, just like a lot of fruits. A lot of times, if you have jams and stuff, the best ones are made from fruit that a lot of people think is just about bad. So, all right, do that. Our timer is probably just about to go off. So let's see where we're at. Oh, look, we have 1 more minute. It's an excellent time to take a sip of whatever you're drinking. So again, part of what's so cool about this is we want you to understand there's not necessarily rights and wrongs. Baking is based on science, exact measurement. It's why I'm a terrible baker. Following rules is really hard for me, really hard. However, when it comes to cooking, there isn't as many rights or wrongs. It's what is your preference? What appeals to you? What tastes good? However, having said that, you also aren't going to know the answer to that if you don't try new things. So you want to kind of stay open-minded, expand your palate, try new things because you never are going to know. Look at food as an adventure. If you look at food as an adventure, instead of having that natural, like, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't like it. Well, have you tried it? No. Well, then how do you know you don't like it? Like I used to say to my twin nephews, you do like it. You do. And I'm going to show you that you do. Here's our timer. All right. So let's remove the cover from our chicken. I'm going to get another knife. Our portobellos are beautiful. Let me get my little spatula. Turn them back over, a nice crisp to them. I'm going to turn my chicken back over. A nice little crisp. Beautiful crisp. Nice little flavor. I'm going to go ahead and cut one of them. Be done beautifully. Yep. So with chicken, you don't want it to be pink ever. It should be 165 degrees. A lot of people don't have thermometers at their houses. So the rule of thumb with chicken, you never want it to be pink. You want it to be white in the middle, okay? Chicken thighs are a little bit of an off-white. It's a different, slightly different color than chicken breast. But now we're gonna go ahead and try it. So tasty. Okay. Chicken thighs are always different sizes. They don't come in one size. I feel like with the chewiness of mine, I'm going to let it cook for 2 more minutes. I'm going to go ahead and check on my rice. Oh, my rice looks beautiful. You can see we've got that coconut, the smell. I hope you guys are enjoying the smell. Because this dish is one of those aromatic dishes that just makes the house smell so good. We can go ahead, if you want to try your rice. Again, that smell, so good. Perfect. Oh, I'm hot. I turned off my rice, taking out my thing, covering it over, just waiting those 2 minutes for my chicken. And then we're going to spoon this up and we're going to enjoy such a tasty treat. I hope you guys enjoy this. This is kind of a unique meal. A lot of people aren't used to cooking with coconut milk and with even condensed sweetened coconut milk. Coconut milk, I have a can here to show you. Coconut milk is what I use in a lot of my vegan soups. It gives you a little bit of creaminess, and usually it actually doesn't have the sweet. So unless it says virgin coconut oil or virgin coconut milk, you actually don't get the sweet. You just get a little bit of creaminess. So, all right, we are good to go. I just turned off my chicken pan, turned off my rice pan, and let's see what we got. Let me get a little scoop. Get that on the plate. Look how pretty that looks. And again, the smell. Oh, smells so good. I'm gonna take one of the thighs. I'm also gonna take one of the portobello mushrooms. I'm gonna come over here. We're gonna give this a little bit of a nice taste test. I wanna make sure that you guys have a nice big bite before we wrap up. And let's see, I mean, look how pretty it is. That spinach with the chickpeas, the chicken, that beautiful smell. The best part of cooking food is not choking when you're talking and breathing and eating. The best part of cooking food is not only getting to smell it, but it's getting to taste it. So let's do that. Don't burn your mouth. So good. And portobello mushroom. So good.
There were 2 cans of coconut milk and fresh sage on the ingredient list. We don't use that question.
Oh, sage! I knew at the beginning. Do you remember me saying that I forgot something? So I put water in instead of coconut milk. I apologize. You can do it with coconut milk instead of water. Fresh sage gives you, honestly, a beautiful flavor. And if I made it again, like I said, I knew I was forgetting an ingredient. See, even those of us that do this for a living forget things once in a while. So if you're going to use the fresh sage, and you can do this separately right now, if you put a little bit of coconut oil in a little fry pan, get the coconut oil nice and hot, drop in a couple of pieces of fresh sage in the coconut oil, cook it off for about, on pretty high heat, for about 4 minutes or so. It's going to crisp the sage leaf. You can take them out, put them right on top of the dish, and it's absolutely crispy. Sage leaves are delicious on almost anything. So that's what, and the coconut milk was instead of water. Again, doesn't give you a sweet flavor like the condensed milk that I use. I just put in the water before I realized, Jeni, you have coconut milk. Okay, so that is the dish. I hope it is delicious. I am going to, you know, there are just some times when you do silly things. So what you would do for the dessert is you would have sectioned a piece of it off first, your rice off, without putting in the spinach and the chickpeas. You would mix the plain coconut rice with your mango, and it is a divine dessert. It is so tasty, not super sweet, but super, super tasty. So that is, again, we'll take one more bite and then we'll wrap up. A tasty, tasty dinner. So good. This allows you to get a variety of flavors that a lot of people haven't used. So I want you to become more comfortable with being like, okay, I haven't used that, but wow, it's so good. So I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. We will be back here 3 weeks from tonight. We apologize again. Last week was a little bit of an aberration. We had technical difficulties, but our plan is to do this class the 4th Tuesday of every month. We're super excited. We want your suggestions as far as what you want to learn, what you want to eat, things that you want to learn to use, things maybe you've never had but you've always wanted to try. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you again to the Hyannis Library for hosting these amazing classes. And thank you for joining me in my kitchen for live cooking with Jeni. Thanks. Thank you guys. Love you all. Love is always our secret ingredient. Oh, Jim is showing me that there is another question.
Who do we reach out to for suggestions? So
if you have suggestions right now, you're welcome to put them in the chat. If you want to send me suggestions, you can send them to Jeni, Jeni, @FamilyTableCollaborative.com. Again, JENI at familytablecollaborative.com. And Jim is putting that in the chat right now, just so you have my email address. I am so excited to be doing these classes. Education is a huge, huge part. If you want to change behaviors, if you want to learn things to like really be able to expand what you do at home and demystify cooking, have it not be as scary, have it be a lot of fun. You can see I have a sign, cooking is love you can taste. Cooking is my love language. It changes your world when you can use fresh ingredients and good food. It makes you feel better. It makes you feel better physically, mentally. It's so much better. And there's a lot of shortcuts. There's a lot of things. Doesn't have to be complicated. Doesn't have to be scary. So again, thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope to see you 3 weeks from tonight, right back here for Live Cooking with Jeni. Thank you guys so much. Love you.
Thank you, Jeni. And everyone, I hope we'll see you again in 3 weeks. And I just want to say that having Jeni here showing us how to use nutritious food and creating recipes is sort of part of a broader nutrition and food access initiative that the library is working on right now. We've got funding to get a crop swap fridge for the library. We're doing a grandparents raising grandchildren nutrition program twice this summer. And we're just really trying to incorporate food literacy and nutrition literacy as part of what we're doing at the library. So there's lots of stuff going on. So please visit us or sign up for our newsletter and enjoy. And we'll see you in 3 weeks. Thank you, Jeni.